Hey fam, and welcome back to the channel. So Trump just made a major move that's sparking endless conversations all over social media. He officially changed the name from Department of Defense to Department of War. And if that wasn't enough, he went on to post that Chicago is about to learn the truth meaning of Department of War. Now, let's pause for a second, because for a moment you would think that that statement came from a country's enemy, right? But this came straight from the president of the USA. Are you guys really seeing what is happening here? This isn't just a name change. It feels like a shift, a realignment, almost like pieces being put in place for something much bigger coming. I'm not here to speculate, but like seriously, from defense to war. I mean, that's not a small adjustment. And if I remember correctly, during his campaign, Trump promised that he was going to end wars. So what happened to that? I will tell you what happened. Prophecy has to be fulfilled. You can't escape it. You can't outrun it. Sooner or later, it unfolds exactly as it was written. And to me, this looks like the beginning steps, the groundwork being laid for what many of us recognize as the Great Tribulation. Stick with me, because we are about to dive into some of the public reactions to this. Take a look at these clips that I collected for you guys from TikTok, and let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. I'll come back at the end of this video to give my own 2 cents. Let's watch this.
The Department of Defense is no longer known as the Department of Defense. It is now known as the Department of War. At least that's what they are trying to change their name to. And Pete Hegseth is no longer the Secretary of Defense. He is now known as the Secretary of War. The same Pete Hegseth who in 2017 did endorse the rebuilding of the Third Temple. I believe it was 2017. And all of this is happening after the meeting with Putin, Xi Jinping, and Kim Jong-un and the other Eastern kings, in which Trump felt offended. I need people to see the writing on the wall, because like, whether you think this is just all comedic or you think it's just like a bluff, a flex, bro, Department of War, I thought we weren't supposed to have any more wars. I thought that was what bro was campaigning on, is that we would have peace everywhere. But now we don't have a Department of Defense, we have a Department of War. And I need people to see the writing on the wall. The red horse is the second seal. He comes after the Antichrist. I'm not saying that anyone is the Antichrist, so don't get it twisted. What I'm saying is war is a part of tribulation. You will see a great war in the tribulation period. Everybody's lining up their chess pieces. Everyone's getting put in position. Everything is being moved and motions are happening so that things can carry out exactly as they were written, exactly as Jesus told us that they would. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus, if you don't believe in Jesus, if you think the Bible is just one big fairy tale, I'm here to tell you that it's not. There are so many people who are trying to spread this truth and share the word and let everyone know the times that we are living in and what's ahead. Please guys, get off the tracks before the train comes. Get in the ark with Jesus.
It is no longer the Department of Defense. It is now the Department of War. I feel a way about that. I truly feel a way about that. But I know the consequence and repercussion of talking about these things while serving in the military. But I will say this. Words have meaning. Words have power. When you start speaking things and putting certain words into the atmosphere, I'm a firm believer that those things only open a gateway and a pathway to those things happening. You can manifest things with words. You can do all of that, right? But I do also know that this is what a lot of people want. A lot of people out there are so violent minded, have a Call of Duty mentality that they think being in the military and being a soldier is all about war. This should be the way we solve problems, but it's not. So when you start putting these things in place, when you start putting these words and these actions and these things in place, what does the future of being a soldier look like? Is war going to always be our first resort? Is violence always going to be the way that we solve things? It's like, what does the future look like for so many fathers, mothers, daughters, sons? You know what I'm saying? It's like I said, I'm not going to get into it. But what do y'all think about it now being called the Department of War over the Department of Defense? Because I truly feel like this is just one piece to a puzzle that might not be what we want.
Y'all know this sounds crazy. Trump signs executive order rebranding Defense Department as Department of War. So we're talking about Donald J here. He's the president that ran his campaign on stopping wars, being peaceful, and a whole list of other things. But right now, he has made an executive order. We'll see how constitutional it is, if Congress got to get involved or whatnot, but the Department of War. The order permits the use of titles like Secretary of War, but it does not formally rename the department. That would require congressional approval. So I just said that, but it is something interesting, right? And we're going to dive in a lot deeper in the next series of videos of what this means. But Trump says Department of War. And we know the U.S. used to be a formidable opponent, but it did lose the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Afghan War, the Iraq War, all of those type of wars we weren't successful in. And again, I got family members who serve. You probably do too. And overall, we don't want wars. We just want a peaceful country and government, but we also want to be strong. Let me know your thoughts.
With Donald Trump changing the Department of Defense to the Department of War, the first thing that occurred to me as a veteran of the United States Navy is just how much that's going to cost, because like my common access card when I was in the military had the Department of Defense seal stamped on it. So that means that if you're in the military or you're a military contractor or you have just a common access card because you work with the Department of Defense, you're now going to have new IDs. So that's millions and millions of IDs that are all going to have to swapped over, and you're going to have to pay the manpower to get that done, and the little plastic times a million is a lot of money, and all of the letterheads are going to have to change. All of the current contracts that are open and operating under the Department of Defense, all of those contracts are going to have to be redrawn under the Department of War. So they're going to have to pay lawyers to redraw all of those contracts. And yeah, sometimes they'll be easy, just swapping out the letterhead will be enough. But there are contracts where it references Department of Defense, and they have to make sure that they go and comb through all of that and change it all. So it's just going to cost a lot of money. If they do it in a fast track method, it could cost the U.S. taxpayers, you and me, $1 to $2 billion. If they do it over a 10 to 20 year period, it could be tens of millions of dollars, but that's still your tax money. And that's like the big thing that Republicans and MAGA are constantly shouting into the void, which is stay away from my tax money, quit wasting money. And that's all Donald Trump is doing. He's just wasting money to stroke his own ego. So if you can justify like that kind of money spend just to sound cooler, please let me know in the comments, because I just don't get it.
You know, it's so funny when I hear liberals complain and get mad about everything that Trump does. I mean, he's the biggest troll ever. He doesn't have to do it. It's so easy, man. I mean, you got people like Gavin Newsom who try their hardest to try to be like this man. So now the uproar is about Trump changing the Department of Defense back to its original name, Department of War, or the War Department. And I see a lot of liberals with content talking about in 1789 it was created as the Department of Defense. That's wrong. From 1789 up until 1947, it was called the Department of War. And during those times, we won some of our greatest battles. But if you notice, in 1947, we pretty much started losing every damn thing. I mean, people don't want to talk about Korea. They don't want to talk about Vietnam. They only want to talk about the Bay of Pigs invasion. They don't want to talk about what happened in Iran. They don't want to talk about what happened in Afghanistan. Let's even go back to the Iran-Contra scandal. Iraq. I think the only thing we pretty much won during this time was probably Operation Desert Storm. But since then, the military's objectives have changed. See, the Department of War is not to create war. It's pretty much to let everybody know that we're not playing and we're willing to go to war and a mission that's focused. Now, I'm not a part of the military, and I respect those who are part of the military. But when I hear these liberals who've never served, never wanted to serve, get pissed off because of the name change, let's just think about it. Defense. When I was a police officer, they taught us how to be offensive drivers. We always had to be on the offense. They teach you how to be a defensive driver to avoid accidents. And I understand why they try to change that, because just look at the history of it. During the 1940s, the world was exhausted. They just fought 2 major wars within 25 years. I mean, you had World War I, World War II. Those were devastating. But also during that time, you had the League of Nations and the United Nations. And I guess the world wanted to come to peace. And the people don't realize that before that, the United States was never the aggressor, other than the American Revolution. But after we changed to the Department of Defense, we became the aggressor. We started meddling in wars we had nothing to do with. I mean, hell, we went to Korea right after we changed it. We became the world's policeman. Being in the Department of War, we're no longer the world's policeman. We're here to defend our nation. And that was the way that we used to do things. But it's crazy because nowadays people don't know history. They don't understand the reason behind it. They just think it's rebranding. Again, we're going back to our original name. And with that original name became a different mindset, a different mission. And I like it. But again, the left loves crime, but they hate the Department of War. With this change, the United States is now on offense, and we're ready to protect and defend our nation at all costs. And if it comes to war, so be it. God bless the USA.
So Trump is planning to sic his Department of War on Chicago despite lying to us multiple times about being a peacetime president. This honestly blows my mind just as much as when Trump bombed Iran when I couldn't sleep for a whole week. This really reminds me, a lot of evangelicals equate Trump to the violent but holy Old Testament kings like David, where Trump gets a pass because he's a Christian ruler, and he'll bring God's kingdom on this earth. But honestly, I'd rather gauge any Christian ruler by how closely they reflect Jesus, and Trump fails at every checkbox. Today that checkbox is Matthew 5. Keep up with the news, pray this doesn't escalate, and use your voice to speak out against this nonsense. God bless.
They literally chiseled the word defense off the wall of the Pentagon today and are going to replace it with the word war. Secretary of War, the War Department. Here's Pete on Truth Social with his new handle, Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. We are the War Department. And they have this whole video showing a montage of all the wars we've been in, because who doesn't want to go back to the fucking good old days when we had guys in trenches firing rifles at each other? Perfect. I just want to know, MAGA, didn't you guys vote for the No New Wars president? Wasn't this your guy?
I loudly pledged a new approach. Great nations do not fight endless wars.
I'm going to need somebody from MAGA to go ahead and explain to me how this is a good thing. Because I know they're going to have some mental gymnastics. They'll accept anything. Jobs numbers down by to a third of what they should have been this month. That's somebody else's fault, right? Now we're the Department of War. Please explain it to me like I'm 5.
Yeah, so there's no world in which I should have to explain to you why this is not okay. Because if a Democratic president did this, you guys would be melting like the little snowflakes that you are. You guys love to dish it out. You can't take 1/10 of it. Can you imagine if Joe Biden did something like this? You'd be sobbing in the streets, threatening civil war. A president is supposed to be the president for the entire United States, okay? You are not just the president for the red. I know you guys like to think, red good, blue bad. Yes, red good. Can you just imagine for 1 second if a Democratic president did this? Because next time a Democrat gets in office, if this is how they behave, I want you guys to clap right along. Because apparently this is how you want government to function. And it's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Because I can tell you, if a Democratic president was playing around with war messaging for red states, I would be condemning it 100%. Every single time.
Less than 24 hours after renaming the Department of Defense the Department of War, the sitting U.S. president is now talking about using that very department on a U.S. city. This is not satire. This is not a movie. This is reality, living in America right now. Trump made a mock war movie poster bragging about deportations and threatening Chicago. Think about that. The commander-in-chief glorifying the thought of sending military against U.S. citizens, and the White House pushing it out like propaganda. Illinois' Governor J.B. Pritzker doesn't intend to let this slide. He's already made it clear that he intends to fight back against Trump. He's called it dangerous, authoritarian, and unconstitutional, because it absolutely is. America needs to wake up. When the sitting president changes the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War, and in less than 24 hours turns that department on its own citizens, we are dealing with an authoritarian dictator. This is not leadership. This has nothing to do with safety. This is about control. Today it's Chicago. Tomorrow it could be your city. This cannot be ignored. We cannot stand for a president using our military against us.
Let's talk about this because as part of the shock of Trump changing the name from Department of Defense to Department of War, we also have to face the reality that this won't come cheap. I'm talking about taxpayers' money, American citizens' money. I was about to say my money. These kinds of changes, the restructuring, the policies, the shift in focus, all of that has a price tag. And believe me, it's not a small amount. This isn't just symbolic. It feels like costly preparations for something that's coming down the line. Now, here's where it even gets more intriguing. Trump rebranding defense into war doesn't just sound like a weight play. You know, it carries weight. It almost like a message that we are gearing up for battle. But the big question is, battle with whom? Because right now, No one really knows, and that's the part that's unsettling. On one hand, if this is about protecting the nation, strengthening security, and making sure America is never caught off guard, that could be a good thing, right? But on the other hand, if this is about flexing power, about being a bully or the world stage, then that's a whole different story. But either way, what we're seeing feels more like more than just policies. It feels prophetic. We are in the last days. I mean, the Bible makes it clear that things will happen that shake the world, leave people wondering what's next. That's why none of this should really surprise us. Whether this is a preparation for a conflict, a strategy of intimidation, or something much bigger, one thing is clear: prophecy unfolding right in front of our eyes. So I'll leave this with you. What do you guys think about this? Do you see this as a move to protect the country, or do you see it as groundwork for something darker? Could this be just another step leading us closer to the days the Bible talk about, or is this simply a political stunt? Either way, we can't ignore what is happening. This feels like a preparation for something great, and it's only a matter of time before we see exactly what it is. Please go ahead, drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Stay watchful, stay prayerful, and as always, expect anything in these times, because the signs are everywhere. We are in the last days. Yeah. Go ahead, subscribe to this channel if it's your first time to be on this channel. Turn on that notification bell so that every time I upload such videos, you'll be notified. I'll definitely see you in my next video. Stay peaceful.